The G20 consists of 19 countries plus the European Union and now the African Union. As the G20 presidency, South Africa invited 16 guest countries to participate in the G20 discussions, including especially a number of African countries and Africa's regional economic communities and financial institutions. All G20 members attended all the G20 related meetings throughout the year, except for one member country. It is regrettable that the United States of America, which is a founding member of the G20 and which takes over the presidency of the G20 from South Africa in 2026, chose not to participate in the G20 Leaders Summit and the final meetings leading up to that summit. It is even more unfortunate that the reasons the United States gave for its non-participation were based on baseless and false allegations that South Africa is perpetrating genocide against Afrikaners and the confiscation of land from white people. This is blatant misinformation about our country. We were most pleased that many organizations, businesses, and individuals from the United States participated in large numbers in G20-related activities such as the Business 20 Summit and the G20 Social Summit. South Africa valued their constructive and enthusiastic participation. Earlier this week, we formally handed over the G20 presidency for 2026 to the United States, observing the appropriate diplomatic protocols. A few days ago, President Donald Trump made a statement to the effect that South Africa would not be invited to participate in the G20 in the United States. He repeated untrue statements about genocide against Afrikaners and the confiscation of land from white people in our country. We must make it clear that South Africa is one of the founding members of the G20, and South Africa is therefore a member of the G20 in its own name and right. We will continue to participate as a full, active, and constructive member of the G20.
Imagine hosting one of the biggest global events of the year, the G20, pulling off a whole diplomatic marathon, and then a few days later, hearing a former U.S. president loudly announce that you won't be invited to the next one. You'd think somebody was joking, right? Nope. This week, President Cyril Ramaphosa delivered a measured, firm, and surprisingly elegant response to Donald Trump's claim that South Africa won't be at the G20 Summit in 2026. And trust me, his response didn't just clap back. It rewired the entire conversation. Let's break down the 10 biggest facts of this story, all while pulling apart how this moment shakes up international relations, global partnerships, and U.S.-South Africa diplomacy. South Africa didn't just chair the G20. It broadened the table by inviting 16 guest nations, including African regional blocs and economic communities. That's a huge diplomatic signal of leadership and inclusion, showcasing South Africa as a bridge builder for the continent. When Trump later tried to act as if South Africa's seat could simply be revoked, Ramaphosa's response subtly highlighted that the country had just proven itself as a capable, respected global convener. In terms of international relations, this strengthens South Africa's role as a continental representative, and it pressures the U.S. to acknowledge Africa's growing influence within global power structures. But if the hosting went so well, what exactly triggered the tension that comes next? Every G20 country showed up to the main events, except the U.S. That absence added tension before Trump even made his statement. Ramaphosa's cool, almost surgical call-out signaled frustration, but also revealed something deeper: diplomatic disappointment. For the U.S., this signals a distancing from multilateral cooperation, While for South Africa, it raises the question of whether Washington is pivoting away from African-led initiatives. This no-show essentially set the stage for a chilly diplomatic exchange, a small crack that opened the door for a much bigger public disagreement. And trust me, what the U.S. said next didn't exactly help diffuse things. Trump repeated claims that South Africa was committing genocide against white citizens and confiscating land, accusations Ramaphosa called outright misinformation. This wasn't just a rebuttal, it was a warning flare. South Africa sees these claims as dangerous distortions, capable of damaging its global reputation and fueling internal tensions. From a diplomatic standpoint, this deepens mistrust. South Africa interprets this as the U.S. political arena misrepresenting its internal affairs for ideological gain. The friction immediately strains bilateral goodwill and places pressure on future cooperation, especially in trade and security. But the irony that followed? It was thick. Ramaphosa noted that U.S. companies showed up in big numbers at economic summits during the G20 years. That sent a very different message than Washington's absence. It suggests the business community wants engagement, even if political leadership is pulling back. This duality, it creates a weird split-screen effect. Strained official relations, but strong private sector ties. It means the foundation for cooperation isn't gone, but the politics surrounding it just got messier. And then came Trump's headline-making announcement, the one that sparked Ramaphosa's viral response. Ramaphosa calmly reminded the world South Africa is a founding G20 member. Its seat isn't optional, revocable, or dependent on which country hosts. This was more than a correction. It was a strategic slap wrapped in velvet. The message, South Africa will not allow global narratives to be rewritten based on political theatrics. Diplomatically, it shows South Africa asserting confidence and refusing to be bullied on the global stage. And instead of turning hostile, Ramaphosa pivoted into a surprisingly gracious tone. Ramaphosa recalled the solidarity shown by U.S. citizens during the anti-apartheid struggle, and how the U.S. Bill of Rights inspired South Africa's constitution. This wasn't random nostalgia, it was strategic communication. By separating the American people from political leadership, Ramaphosa protected long-term bilateral relations while isolating the immediate dispute. This move prevents broader diplomatic fallout and reminds Washington that the relationship is bigger than an election cycle. But he didn't stop there. He went deeper into what's been poisoning the relationship. He argued that certain groups spread false narratives to weaken South Africa's image internationally and damage its economic ties. This adds a serious geopolitical layer. Misinformation isn't just a domestic problem. It's now reshaping foreign policy dynamics. It suggests South Africa feels under targeted pressure and is ready to confront that pressure publicly. For U.S.-South Africa relations, that creates a new challenge: trust erosion. Then came the most forceful reminder of all. Ramaphosa underscored the strength of South Africa's judiciary, equality laws, and democratic institutions. This was a not-so-subtle way of countering claims of systemic human rights abuse. By asserting institutional legitimacy, South Africa signals to global partners, including the U.S., that it expects respect, not lectures based on false narratives. This strengthens South Africa's diplomatic footing across the global South. Then, Ramaphosa shifted into solution mode. Instead of silencing critics, he invited them into a national conversation about South Africa's future. This move projects political maturity and positions South Africa as a nation committed to unity. Internationally, it signals that the country isn't afraid of scrutiny. It welcomes engagement. That openness enhances legitimacy on the world stage. And then the finale, the part that felt like a national pep talk. He spoke about South Africans living, working, mourning, and celebrating together. A reminder that the nation solves its own problems through unity, not external pressure. This message reaffirms sovereignty while reinforcing national identity. In terms of diplomacy, it sends a clear signal. South Africa isn't intimidated, isn't isolated, and isn't stepping back from global leadership. If you love sharp, high-energy breakdowns of global politics without the noise, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and drop a comment. Did Ramaphosa handle this right, or should he have gone harder? Let's talk about it. Stay tuned, stay sharp, stay on the pulse.